So I'm starting to realize this tank was a bit fuller than what I remembered. It's a 10-gallon tank, plus minus. Went ahead and lowered the lift a little bit so it'd be easier to work on. One of the things I need to do is drain the gas tank since the RX-7's been sitting for so long. And fortunately for me, the year range that I have does have the drain plug. So with the drain plug here, I'm going to be able to easily drain the tank without having to like siphon the gas out or pump it out with fuel pump on the car that runs up to the engine, the carburetor, all that stuff. I was worried I didn't have the drain plug because there's some years that don't have that. So I'm fortunate enough that I did. Since I don't have like a proper collection tool, I just went ahead and used my wife's mechanics tool cart, a couple of milk crates, oil basin here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pull that drain plug and hope for the best. If I recall, I shouldn't have too much in here. I mean, it sounds pretty empty, but I just want to make sure. That's a lot tighter than I thought. Getting a little coming out. I'm glad I wore gloves. Oh, good. Doesn't seem like too much. Hopefully. There might be a bit more in there than I thought. Building up pressure, and then it's catching its breath, burps. If I was to pull the cap, I'm sure I would get a lot more. Coming out a lot faster, but I don't know if I really want it to come out faster than this. This is manageable. Okay, I got plenty of room. Splash it a little bit. Here's the janky way that I am collecting it. So I've got it stacked on a little step stool, a milk crate, a second milk crate, my wife's mechanic cart for her bikes, and then I stand on this milk crate to get a visual look to see how full it is. Now if I pull the gas cap over here, if I pull the gas cap, I definitely would get a lot higher flow. But I actually like the low flow that I'm getting right now because it makes it manageable. So as you can see, it'll get some flow, it'll burp, and then it'll flow. That's good for now. This is pretty manageable for now. The best thing that I can do is I'm draining the tank right now. I'm collecting it in some old oil containers that I have for disposal and stuff like that, and then I'll get rid of it from there. But first things first, drain the tank. So I'm starting to realize this tank was a bit fuller than what I remembered. It's a 10-gallon tank, plus minus, but yeah, I'm filling up more and more unapproved containers. I've resorted to using some protein containers from a supplement company I'm partnered with, Tech Nutrition, 5-gallon, single gallon. I think that's a little over a gallon, maybe close to 2 gallons, 1 3/4. We're filling up, that's for certain. But at least I'm getting the tank drained. That's the biggest thing right now. Step one of getting this thing back on the road. Get all that old gas that's been sitting in there for the last couple of years due to my procrastination. Get that out, and then I need to dispose of it properly. And then, then we'll move on down the line. It looks like we're getting close to the end. The gas is basically slowed down, so now it's just dripping out. And I'm fairly certain that means that we've reached the end. Here we are, just dripping away now. So that should be pretty good. Although that really doesn't mean anything because earlier when I started this, I thought it sounded hollow, but I was deeply mistaken. But this is a good sign right here. So, hoorah. One of the really good things that I noticed was the entire time I've been draining this, the fuel looks clean. There's not a lot of rust or debris or anything like that. You know, at first I thought there was, and then I remembered, oh, I'm using an old pan. Once I ran through the first one and cleaned it out, this stuff has been pretty clear the whole time, which is very, very promising. While under the car, I noticed that there's a secondary fuel filter that sits outside of the external fuel pump. So I'm going to go ahead and get this changed out as well, since it looks like it hasn't been changed in quite some time. Got the ghetto set up in the back of the Gladiator where the strap is holding everything in place. I'm going to head over to Andrew's and he's going to take all of this off my hands, but that's how it works. Heading out into the country. Andrew lives way out here. Nothing too crazy. It's about 20 minutes from where my house is. He's got that traditional old spooky road as we get closer to his house with the trees hanging over. Dropping off some of the gas here at Andrew's. So we're going to give him the gas, and of course he's going to use it for totally legit disposal purposes. Definitely not going to burn anything with it. We're gonna make sure it's properly disposed. Since I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and get a bunch of new things, new plugs, new oil filter, fuel filter, air filter. I'm going to get it at my local auto parts store. Picked up some goodies from the auto parts store. Some things I had to get online and stuff like that, but most of this came from the auto parts store. So to help get the RX-7 back on the road, I've got the inline fuel filter that goes under the hood, the inline fuel filter that goes under the car, back by the gas tank, new oil filter, crossfire plugs, the 4 NKGs. They're like a 4-prong. I'll show you what I'm talking about there on the electrode. The Marvel's Mystery Oil, I'm going to put that into the spark plugs so that we can get those kind of like this. They're not cylinders, RX-7. So to go into the spark plug hole so that we can get anything that might be tight under there, which I don't think there is, but just in case. Fresh oil to go under there. And then I needed some hose clamps for the fuel filters because I like the screw-on type better. And they were really expensive at the hardware store, so I just ordered a whole kit for like what the price of like 1 or 2 of them were going to cost me. Some of you might say, oh my God, he got a Fram. But to be honest, I was going to get a Wix one online, but you know, I was going to pay triple the cost for the filter, and then it was going to cost me almost just as much to ship it as it was to get the filter. I'm not paying 6 times what this filter cost me, and I got this free shipping from our good friend Jeff Bezos over at Amazon. So here those 4 electrodes are. If you remember from the used one that was in the car, you know, they were a little dirty, not too bad, but they were the 4 electrodes as well. So I went ahead and got the same ones, the NKGRs, so that way I'm putting back in it exactly what was there previously when I had the car running, and it really ran great. So I had no complaints about how the car ran, because I thought it was hilarious. Do not use these plugs in an airplane or a hang glider. You might find that doesn't play out exactly how you thought it would. I need to get that Marvel's Mystery Oil into the spark plug cylinders for the RX-7. And I know I'm saying cylinder when it's a rotary engine, but for lack of a better nomenclature, that's what I'm using. Using that Marvel's Mystery Oil, so I'm going to get this into there. But because of the way this engine is designed, it's not like a traditional where you're going to have those spark plugs going straight up and down. They sit actually on a horizontal. So by putting the fluid in, it's just going to be difficult to get it into the hole. So luckily we have a senior dog at our house, and I have these syringes. So I'm going to pick some of the oil up out of there. I'm going to inject it into there, put the spark plugs back in, and then go one at a time. Luckily it's only 4, so it shouldn't take too long. That went pretty easy, getting that oil in there, the Marvel's Mystery Oil, into that cylinder. And I pulled the plug that's beneath it as well. That one doesn't look quite like the last one did. It's got a little bit more carbon built up on it, but it's not like super nasty. All in all, this was a pretty good weekend on the RX-7. I was able to successfully drain the gas tank, get all that old gas out, and then transport it out away from here so that it could be properly disposed of by Andrew, and then also securing a lot of things that I need to get before I want to fire up this engine. Getting that Marvel's Mystery Oil, getting the air filter, getting the oil filters, getting both fuel filters, getting new spark plugs. These are things that I'm going to want to do before firing that engine up and running the gas through the system. So this will help make sure that this is going to be a successful startup when I go to fire it back up. But all in all, not having procrastinated this weekend was really one of the biggest successes of the weekend. Other than just the work and securing all the stuff as I was picking up items to help make sure I can have a good work week when I get back on this next weekend. Thank you for watching this episode of Rob's Garage. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. All of these things help push the channel through the algorithm. And I have more coming on the RX-7 as I bring it back to life from its 2-year slumber.